That's a wrap. Era. Know what I'm saying? Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. I do truly appreciate it. And I want to do a month of June reading wrap up. A reading wrap up. Like, get it? Reading Rainbow. But I read some cool things in the month of June, and I've done actually a book or two review or two about a book or two from June, but some of the stuff I have not talked about. So I'd like to talk a little bit about each one of these things, something brief, a little bit of what I thought, and then we'll move on. It is, as I'm posting this, July 4th, 2025, so I hope you're enjoying your 4th, and if it's not the 4th, then I'm a time traveler going into the future, and I hope you're enjoying whatever day it is for you. I don't remember what buttons I pushed in the DeLorean to get there, but it is Jaws Day as we speak, the 4th of July, Independence Day, and I read a few things, and I'd like to talk about them. But the first one I want to talk about right now is a book, a chapbook, called Fitted Sheet by one of my favorite authors on God's green earth, a fellow by the name of Ian Rogers. And I'm going to put this back together so I can show you what it looked like when I opened it up. But it is a chapbook from Rapture Publishing. This is a lettered edition inside of a cool looking dust jacket that it came with, and an awesome label on the front. But I'll take this back off and show you what it looked like outside of the dust jacket. A chapbook is a short story all by itself, and this is the letter edition from Rapture Publishing. One of my favorite people on God's green earth is a guy by the name of Mitch Hall. He owns Rapture Brewing, Rapture Publishing. He's a Tulsa, Oklahoma guy, and you can't hold that against him. Or you could. I mean, you kind of got to. But a great fellow, great publisher, great stuff, signed in limited edition there. But it is a short story, and that counts too. You know, so you gotta, when you're keeping track of stuff, 28 pages long in here. And Fitted Sheet was a lot of fun. It's a couple of girls. They're sisters. Greta is 7 years old, and her older sister is only 10, Cecilia. But Cecilia is a bully, and she threatens Greta. You do what I say, or I'm gonna pound you. Like, was it Lucy and Charlie Brown would threaten to pound Linus if he didn't? 1, 2, I'll give you 4 good reasons and all that kind of stuff. But she says, I want to play Ghost, and if you don't want to play, then there you go. And so Greta goes along with it, and Greta ends up with a fitted sheet, and they were complaining about that because there's no way to get it right. It curls up under your feet, and you're going to trip over it or get caught up or whatever. But it goes awry. They decide we're not going to play. Cecilia tries to take the sheet off, and it doesn't work anymore. And Greta is a ghost. A real ghost, and she learns that she can blow away with the wind, and she blows away, and she winds up at a home full of other spooky characters, kids that have other mystery powers. And I won't tell you anything more about it, but it was a lot of fun, a sweet little story, kind of like a kid's horror story, like The Wizard of Oz. If you've ever read, was it Frank Baum, something like that? I don't know. I read it a long time ago. Great movie. Great kids story book with a little horrificness to it too, but comparable, shorter but comparable. I think he did a great job of telling you a great story in just a few pages, and I think that's a skill, to tell you the complete thing start to finish and wrap it all up and get it all done in a short period of time. It's definitely a story that could have been fleshed out into something a little bit larger, but I'm glad it was written in this format, and I think you should look it up and check it out. Check out Mitch Hall, Rapture Publishing. Try to get you a copy. Maybe you can still get one of the numbered edition chapbooks. They're signed and limited and stuff, but it's a neat thing and a sweet deal and some great folks and a great story. So I recommend you try to get a hold of it. One of these days, it might be included in some other collection sometime. And when it is, I'll buy it because I'm a fan of Ian Rogers. But Fitted Sheet, the first of my June reading wrap up. So the next thing I read was something I got to admit. I live under a rock, and it's official. I don't mind. I live under a rock. I never heard of Dungeon Crawler Carl. I never heard of Matt Dinniman. Never heard of it. I don't know. Like I said, I live under a rock. It's a comfy rock with air conditioning, but it's a rock. And I was at AuthorCon 5, Scares That Care in Williamsburg, Virginia. And I walked in the front door way before the show started, because that's just what I do. I go in, I make myself at home, I go snooping around, only to hear people at security telling other folks they can't come in yet, and I'm already in, too late. But anyway, I'm there, I see all the stuff, talk to people, have a great time, and somebody sends me a message on my phone saying, while you're there, you need to hit up Matt Dinniman and look at his table. He's got some rare stuff that he's going to, limited editions. First come, first serve. Once they're sold out, you won't be able to get it anymore. And that was after the Friday. That was already Saturday. Come to find out, when I walked in on Friday, I walked face up to Matt Dinniman's table with this great big banner and all this stuff everywhere. Fancy stuff that's sought after and limited, and I can't buy it anymore. And he's standing there. And I walk right by because I see Philip Fracassi, my good friend Philip Fracassi. And I just blew off Matt Dinniman. And so I read that message. And the next Saturday morning, the next day morning, I go in there. And I go up to his table, right up front, big banner. Matt Dinniman standing there, and he's got sold out. Everything friggin' sold out on Friday. But he had a bunch of these books there. Dungeon Crawler Carl. And I pulled out my phone because, yes, I live under a rock. I went to Goodreads, I typed in Matt Dinniman, and the first thing that popped up with all these trillions and trillions of people reviewing this book and rating this book, and they're rating it so high, a book called Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I said, well, I guess I'll buy something. I'll buy one of these books, throw a fledgling author who's never really sold anything. I'm under a rock, man. Believe me, I don't know. So I buy this book, and do I get the first printing? No. Second? No. Ninth printing already. But I bought the book. I got him to sign it for me, and I walked out feeling like, yeah, I did something cool. And then it turns out everybody and their mother has already read this book, and there's a bunch of more in the series, just writing on and on and on and on. And I read it. I read it in the month of June 2025, Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I really liked it. It is like nothing I've ever read, but it feels so familiar. It's weird, but it's weird. It's a weird book, sure, but it's weird how it felt like I was there. It felt so familiar. But Carl, his ex has left, taken a trip with a guy, and he's there with her cat, Donut. It's this fancy show cat, Persian, I think. I don't know. Fancy show cat, I can't remember. And then the cat goes outside, and it's freezing cold and all that stuff, and he goes to get the cat, and everything goes to crap. Every building, everything, cars and all just go flat into the earth, and everybody that's inside is dead. So practically almost everybody's dead. And it turns out that aliens from another planet have been trying to contact Earth for I don't remember, something like 10,000 years. And they hadn't been responding, and there was a contract that said, hey, if you don't do this by this, we're going to come and do this, and that's what happened. So what we end up with is what I have heard called lit RPG. Now, I started playing video game, born in 76, so I started playing video games in the 80s at the laundromat and occasionally at an arcade, but usually at the video store. Or the video stores, yes. You used to be able to go to a store and you would rent videos. and they were plastic things. We called them tapes, like that long, and they had a little tape inside and 2 reels, and you stick it in a thing that would eat it. You push play, and it was cool, man. But it had video games there. Occasionally I'd play these video games. But this is kind of like a book where people, real people, they end up, the remaining survivors end up, not necessarily willingly, although sort of, in this game, Underground, Dungeon Crawler Carl. Underground in this game, it's like a video game, like the first-person game, role-playing game, RPG. Lit RPG, they say. It's like a reality show. The Running Man comes to mind. More so the movie than the book, but still somewhat reminiscent of the Running Man. And it's also like Dungeons and Dragons, first-person shooter video games, all that kind of stuff, all rolled into one. And it is a lot of fun, although it's not everybody's cup of tea, and I don't even like tea. It was more like my cup of coffee. But a cup of coffee that's like the Cuban coffee, where you take one shot. I want a big old cup of coffee, and I go down to Miami and I say, I want the whole big cup, and they say, no, just try this little bitty thing with the Cuban coffee, and you go, oh, okay. That's kind of what this was for me. A lot of fun. I've never read anything like it before, although it did feel familiar. This guy has his cat, and he's in this role-playing game that's really, really die. And there's goblins and all sorts of monsters and things like that. And it turns out people are watching. Not people, but aliens are watching. And they get ratings. It's broadcast and stuff like this. And if you survive, you get to go to a different level. Go down, 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 deeper and deeper until you win. Maybe. But Carl and this fancy show cat, who is now a character that can talk, Princess Donut. She's really cool and interesting. An interesting cat. In fact, there's a picture in here of the cat. But anyway, they've got to try to live. When to live to win. And it turns out the more entertaining you are, the more stuff you get, and the easier it is to move on. But I found the story a lot of fun, although at times it dragged. I didn't like, I skipped some of the stuff. There were, especially early, where there would be a thing where it'd be like, you've got this achievement, and they're funny things, but after a few, I just started to skip the achievement parts on there. But there was some redundancy in the book where I felt like, okay, we're going to do this again and again and again and again, sort of a thing. So I felt repetitious. It was a bit repetitive, although it wasn't exactly the same thing. It just was like, oh, again, another one. But that being said, I'm not insulting the book because it was so entertaining and so much fun. Now, there's a series, and at some point, I'll probably continue on. Just not today. Not in July, but I'll jump back in. It was fun. It's something I'm going to look forward to. And when I'm at AuthorCon 5 or anywhere else that Matt Dinniman is there, I'm going to buy some more of his books and see if he'll sign them for me too while I'm there. But this one, Fitted Sheet, was a chapbook that I say 5 stars out of 5 stars. No doubt. I loved it. Dungeon Crawler Carl, I probably would say 4. 4 out of 5 stars, an enjoyable read. One that I would recommend, kind of. I'd say do not take this seriously. Do not expect anything serious or realistic or literary or anything like that. It's a book that's fun to read. And I think my kids would enjoy it. Go figure. But that's Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. What else? I got a list of the books I read because I can't remember what all I read. The next one was Departure 37. And I've done a book review on Departure 37 by Scott Carson, an author that I had never read before until I read this one. And I had to borrow the wife's Kindle in her pretty little cover. It was an art. It was an art from NetGalley. Hasn't been released yet, although I have already from Michael Koryta, Scott Carson, a.k.a. from his website, I've pre-ordered a signed copy of Departure 37 for myself. But I did a review on this one, and it's kind of like two stories. Keeps going back and forth. 2025 in December, there is a bunch, practically every pilot in the United States gets a phone call from their mother saying, do not fly. No matter what, do not fly. Every single one of them. At pretty much the same time. Some of their mothers have already died, deceased. So every flight in the United States is grounded for that following day, December, whatever it was, 24th, or I don't remember, December something. And then we jump to 1961, the Cuban Missile Crisis era. And a character named Dr. Martin Hazelton is trying to figure out a way to shield planes from electromagnetic pulses, EMPs, in case of a nuclear war. And he stumbles into an ability to make things disappear. Now, bouncing back, because that's what we kind of do, bounce back and forth between 2025 and 1961. Back in 2025, there's a young lady named Charlie, and she is at an airstrip, a maintained airstrip that is no longer in use, but for some reason it's being maintained. And she has found a weather balloon, and she gets a call from her mom, who again is deceased. And worlds end up colliding. But I don't want to go too far into the plot. I did a review on it. A great book. One that I do strongly recommend. And one that made me want to read more from Scott Carson. And I've ordered more from the author. This one I gave 4 stars. I liked the way you have basically 2 stories. 1961 and 2025. And you go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until finally, boom, they hit. And you've got Charlie trying to save the day. A teenage girl. At the end of the day, everything relies on her and her wit and her intelligence and her intellect and all that stuff. Problem-solving abilities, insight to try to save the day. It was a good book. 4 stars out of 5. The next one that I read, and this one is one that I've had on the shelf for a little while. One of my favorite authors on God's green earth is a guy by the name of Robert McCammon. And this is a limited edition from Cemetery Dance, signed and numbered edition. I think it took years to get this book published from pre-order to delivery. It's number 201 of 750 copies in a slipcase. They did a good job with the book, although it was a little bit slow in delivery. And then here is the first edition, first print hardcover that I bought and got Robert McCammon to sign it for me in person at a book signing that he did in Birmingham, Alabama, at the Alabama Booksmith. But I finally got around to reading this book. I've had it on the shelf for a good long time. And it is I guess you call it a Southern Gothic. But have you ever heard of Edgar Allan Poe, Fall of the House of Usher? This book starts with Roderick Usher from Fall of the House of Usher. His brother Hudson has looked up Edgar Allan Poe, who's on the, you know his story. His life didn't end up well, even though he's such a famous author. Things didn't go so well for him. But Hudson looked him up to find out how he besmirched not only his brother, but the family name. And he was very angry. Turns out Poe said, well, I just kind of vaguely heard about this story, and then I added a lot of flavor to it to make it entertaining. And Hudson leaves, one, knowing that Poe is a complete, utter failure in his mind, and that, two, the Usher name, the Usher family will be more powerful than ever. And it turns out he was right. And we fast forward from then, that was 1847, up into a more modern time, and we have a character named Rix Usher, who's living in the city, far from the family estate, Hudson Lodge. He's living far from there as an author, and his writing career isn't going so great. But he gets a call from his brother, Boone. They've got a very bad relationship, saying that Dad's dying. He needs you here, so Ricks doesn't want to. It doesn't want anything to do with his family, no matter how much money they have and power. They own an arms, Usher Arms, an arms company. It has nothing to do with it, nothing to do with the things that they've done also and their evil ways and all that kind of stuff. But his dad's suffering from a malady. All of the Usher heads of family suffer from a malady and die painful, miserable deaths. Well, he goes back, and so there's a lot of intrigue. It's a Gothic. This one they call it a Southern Gothic. And I haven't read this book for so long because I'm not really a Gothic kind of guy. It's a whole lot of intrigue and conversation and back and forth, and you did this and remember when you did that, and I'm blackmailing you and I'm sleeping with your wife and things like that. But Robert McCammon is such a good author, regardless of genre or subject, whether it be something in the colonial times, a Southern Gothic, a true horror story, fantastic horror, whether it be something very depressing like a guy dying from cancer and gone south. No matter what, Robert McCammon turns these things into wonderful reads, and this is no exception. This story, while I give it a 4 out of 5 stars, this story is an entertaining, good read all the way through. It's not fun, it's a Gothic. And it's all the same things that I described there. A lot of intrigue, and you done this and you done that, and secrets and sleeping with wives and all the stuff in between. But we finally end up with some characters that we like and more tolerate and things like that. But it works out very well. And I enjoyed Usher's passing. I'm very glad I read it. Another great book by Robert McCammon. Not his best. You can only have one best. He's got a few that are fantastic. Maybe more than a few. He's got a lot of them that are fantastic. And this one is very, very good. I suggest it. I think you will like it. It is not going to be your favorite Robert McCammon book. Probably, unless it's the only one that you've read. But very good. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Glad to have it. I love this cover. I love Halloween and I love jack-o'-lanterns. And I love that cover. The Pumpkin Man. The Pumpkin Man and the Mountain King. It's some really cool, spooky stuff in there, too. So, next, I read a book called Coffin Moon by Keith Rosson. And I've done a book review for that one. It was the first book I'd ever read of Keith Rosson's as well. And I'm going to remedy that. And I've ordered some stuff from him. But this one, it's set in the 70s. And we have a Vietnam veteran who has come back from war, changed, is suffering from nightmares and the things that he'd done, and he's trying to straighten himself out, trying to get things on the right track to help live a happy life with his happy wife. He's got a good wife. They're living upstairs because her parents own a bar. Living upstairs above the bar, he's a bartender, and he's trying to not be an alcoholic anymore, so he's a recovering alcoholic, working at a bar, above a bar. Living above a bar, working at the bar, so it's not a great mix there. And the bad guys walk into the bar one day, and they start some trouble with his mother-in-law, who owns the place. Turns out they got some sort of a deal going on, and she won't tell him about it. But they walk in one day, they break into the bar when nobody's there. He goes in, and he raises some cane. He threatens them, gets some pictures of them, and runs them off. And then, while he's at work at the bar, his wife is butchered, slaughtered, ripped to pieces. His mother and father-in-law ripped to pieces, slaughtered. Turns out one of those bad guys is a vampire. And he's not just a vampire. He's made by a maker. I guess there's like the original vampires, and they've got all these crazy powers that are different than most. And then the ones they make have some powers, and it gets diluted as it goes on. You'll read about it and find out about it. But they have adopted his niece. His wife's sister killed her abusive boyfriend, and now she's in prison. So they ended up with their niece. Troubled young girl, having trouble at school and things like that. And they're left. They're all that's left. And they decide to go get revenge. And they go chasing. And it's a great story, a great one. I strongly recommend Coffin Moon. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Again, a 4-star read. I really liked it, and I need to read more from Keith Rosson. And then finally, in Under the Gun, at the final buzzer, I got in a book, The Killer on the Road by Stephen Graham Jones, one of the great ones. I've done some reviews and stuff of Stephen Graham Jones as well. The Killer on the Road, I found out that it exists by going on a website, and I'll link it in the description here. Black Crow Books. They have special edition versions, signed and fancy stuff, looking cool. I went on their website, and boom, they had a book called The Babysitter Lives by Stephen Graham Jones, and I said, what? A new one already? And I smashed them buttons, and I went to NetGalley to see if they had it, and they had a duo, a twofer, a bang bang, 2 books in one, which I've also ordered that one, pre-ordered that one, a signed version. Put a link in the description for that as well. And so I was able to get a digital ARC to read on my wife's Kindle. Again, getting some work. She don't read it, so I read it. Whatever. So the first one up was Killer on the Road. And Killer on the Road was fantastic. I did a book review for it that I just haven't posted yet. And again, I give this one 4 out of 5 stars. Fantastic read. Stephen Graham Jones is a great one. I'm a big fan. There are some people that have trouble kind of digesting and keeping up and understanding his writing, the way he writes. He kind of writes like he talks in a way, like people talk in conversations. When you're having a conversation with someone, so much of the verbiage is left out because you know context, you know facial expressions, you know history and past, and you don't have to explain everything to each other like you're talking to a friend. He kind of writes like that. And so, yeah, sometimes it can be hard to keep up, but it's also very neat because you got to pay close attention. You have to think. It's not just mindless reading. You have to think. But anyway, The Killer on the Road is the type of a story that tends to be more of that mindless stuff. It's a slasher highway thriller. You got a killer chasing kids, killing them off, and then you got kids chasing the killer to get revenge. And so it's very cool. It's a neat read. It's a kind of a horror slasher niche story that, while it's not a literary masterpiece that they're going to teach in schools forever and ever, in high school, maybe they will in some schools, I don't know, but it's well written. It's a great story, and it fills a niche for the kind of a story that I like. And it's that slasher road highway killer story, something like Duel, something like Jeepers Creepers, other things that come to mind. It's that kind of a story, and our killer, Bucketmouth, is fantastic. He's a fantastic, scary villain. Even better is our young lady, teenager, Harper is her name. She's the protagonist. Her mother was a Native American, and her father was a white truck driver. So she grew up with him, having her in the truck, learning the ways of the road, the trucker lifestyle, all the ins and outs and do's and don'ts and secrets. And her mom is more of I don't want to say nag, but she nags her kids. She nagged her husband. The dad has left, and they don't know, did he leave? Did he die? He's been gone now for a while, though. And she's run away from home, Harper has, because of a big fight, blow up that she had with her mom. And she's with friends, just happenstance, and her little sister Meg. And they've got Bucketmouth, a killer on the loose, after them. And I won't get into anything else, but this story not only was fun, but it was intense, and it filled a void. It told this type of story better than anything I've ever read or anything I've ever watched in a movie form. It did it better than all of them. What kind of a heck of a fantastic movie would this be? Candy Cane. What was that movie called? Was that Joyride? I forgot. Joyride, I think. Candy Cane. But This is better than all of those types of movies or books or anything else that I've read. I'd love to see a movie. Stephen Grant Jones has, he's a basketball guy, I think, but he hit a home run on this one. My form maybe wasn't that good. I was a pretty good hitter, though, as a kid. But Killer on the Road, I give, again, 4 stars. But it's better than the 4 stars that I rate it. It's a great book, and I do recommend it. And with that being said, that's all I read in June. Call me a slacker. Call me an underachiever. Call me a handsome devil. People don't call me that. Anyway, I can think of no more lies to tell. So thank you for your time. I do truly appreciate it. What are you reading? Huh? C'est la vie, baby. Doo-doo. Ring the bell.